A cursed orb holding the spiteful spirit of a dictator? A ghostly face-off with Superman? Here's everything you need to know about the bizarre afterlife of Julius Caesar. Before we fast forward to Caesar's spiritual hotspots in 2022, we've got to travel back 2,000 years or so. Gaius Julius Caesar was raised in a wealthy aristocratic family in a troubled, politically unstable time in Roman history. He must have taken the lessons of his youth to heart because he rose to power through a combination of brutality, intimidation, cunning, and deft oratory. Caesar became the head of his family at age 16 when his father died, and he went on to prove his military prowess in the army. One well-known anecdote from 75 BC described him being kidnapped by pirates for ransom and swearing that he'd hunt them down. This wasn't just a brazen threat, he actually did it. Later on, he found them, slit their throats, and had them crucified for good measure. Caesar became Rome's military tribune and forged an alliance with two crucial figures, the war hero Pompey the Great, whom he would later kill, and Rome's wealthiest man, Marcus Licinius Crassus. He ruthlessly campaigned in Gaul for 8 years starting in 58 BC, and then wielded his renown from that campaign to seize Rome in 49 BC. From there, he marched on Egypt, claimed it for himself, had a son with Cleopatra, and returned to Rome in 44 BC to assume the title Dictator Perpetuus, or Dictator for Life. Well, things escalated pretty quickly from there. He was immediately assassinated.
And when did it become okay for one person to be the boss of everybody, huh? Because that's not what Rome is about! We should totally just stab Caesar!
Julius Caesar was cremated at the Roman Forum in a massive event akin to a sacrificial feast. In a sort of public riot, citizens threw whatever possessions they could onto Caesar's blazing death pyre. The once dictator was incinerated on a massive bier decked out with a gilded model of the Temple of Venus. It contained an ivory couch and a pillar hung with the robe that Caesar wore when he was murdered. There is some controversy as to where his remains ended up. Some say Caesar's ashes were interred at the Forum in the Temple of the Divine Julius, erected in his honor. You can still visit the site today. At the time when the temple was built, however, it was illegal to inter people within the city boundaries. The biographical accounts Lives of the Caesars, written by the Roman historian Suetonius a full 165 years after Caesar's death in AD 121, points to a place called the Field of Mars as his final resting place. His ashes were also widely believed to be buried at a temple on Capitoline Hill. A smaller crowd believed that they were interred at Piazza di Montecitorio, near a column raised to Emperor Marcus Aurelius. One of the most fascinating theories suggests that Caesar's ashes wound up on a lead ball at the tip of a mysterious obelisk in Heliopolis, Egypt, which was moved to Rome by Emperor Caligula in AD 37. When Caligula moved the obelisk, supposedly containing Caesar's ashes, he placed it in a public field called the Vatican Circus, or the Circus of Nero. This was the site where numerous Christians were martyred, including supposedly St. Peter himself. While other obelisks would later be toppled, this one was left standing as the final witness to an important historical time. It seems that the obelisk remained undisturbed for about 1,500 years until Pope Sixtus V moved it to its current location in front of the Basilica of St. Peter in 1586. At some point during the move from the Vatican Circus to the future Vatican City, legend says that Sixtus just couldn't help but crack open the lead orb on top. Pandora's box much? Reports indicate that there was indeed dust inside, but that's the extent of it. Well, apparently just a little dust can kick up a storm. To add to the drama of potentially unleashing a dictator's vengeful spirit, the obelisk came to a near catastrophe on the day of its relocation. As advocacy describes, the obelisk's ropes almost snapped under the strain of its weight, but a gallant sailor from Genoa put his back into it, so to speak, and the obelisk was spared. The entire time, Sixtus ordered the gathered crowd to stay still and silent on punishment of death. The obelisk remained untouched until 1817 when a sundial was added to it. 1599 gives us the first historical mention of Caesar's ghost. He didn't materialize in Rome, however, or near any supposed resting site. He manifested on stage when Shakespeare debuted Julius Caesar, a mere 13 years after the mysterious obelisk of Heliopolis was moved from the Vatican Circus. Following Caesar's assassination in the play, his ghost appears to Brutus in Act 4, Scene 3 to guilt him for his betrayal. While this is clearly fictional and conforms to Shakespeare's motif of ghosts representing projections of guilt, think Macbeth, it at least marks an instance of the emerging Caesar's ghost legend. Caesar's ghost has also shown up in narratives thousands of years after his death, namely in Superman comic books. Yes, that's right. Volume 1, Issue 91 of Superman depicts Supes facing off against a literal ghost of Julius Caesar. Actor Julian Noah, who voiced Clark Kent's editor Perry White, first deployed the phrase "Great Caesar's Ghost" back in 1946 for a radio show reading of Superman. From that point, "Great Caesar's Ghost" became Perry White's catchphrase, similar to other old-timely exclamations like "Great Scott" or "Good Heavens."
Great Caesar's Ghost, are you gonna wear that outfit into the jungle?
Of course, Noah didn't make up the phrase. It was already a popular saying by then, meaning that it had been milling around in language and consciousness for some time before. So where exactly does legend place Julius Caesar's ghost and its hauntings nowadays? Why, the Colosseum, of course. Tales don't describe why Caesar would choose to inhabit the Colosseum. After all, it was built around AD 70, over 110 years after his death. Ignoring that little inconsistency, we can probably assume Caesar is drawn to the Colosseum because it reminds him of the heartwarming sights of bloodshed. Tourist sites like Different Italian Journey go on different routes, upping the apparitional ante. At number 6 on their ghost tour list, they describe St. Peter's Basilica being the haunting ground of Caesar's ghost. They also describe an evil column inside the cathedral that had demons bound to it, brought to the basilica from Solomon's Temple in Jerusalem. But at this point, things are just getting ridiculous, so we'll leave it at that. As all this history, myth, and superstition illustrates, we've indeed been haunted by Caesar's ghost, the legacy of a dictator whose legend occupies the world more than 2,000 years after his death. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more grunge videos about fascinating historical figures are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.